What's going on, guys? Hitballs here with a tutorial. I've been requested to do a dodge roll. Now what I'm going to use here for this is I'm going to use a typical cat rig. It's actually very typical. I did, however, add a tail, and I added one little extra bone off the pelvis that I'm using for this little pouch. Now this rig that I have here and this rat character, they're all just tests. I haven't actually really done too much skin weighting, or I haven't textured it. You can see I've got, a bunch of skin weight weirdness going on here and there. Ripped up stuff here and there that I haven't even really addressed or cared about yet. I just kind of want to play with them for a little bit, just get a feel for how things are going to go. When I go to try to fix these things, if they do, persist to be an issue, then I'll remodel them. It's a good phase to test this kind of stuff. This is kind of what I'm doing. So given that, I'm going to use it so that we have at least some kind of character, so that I can show, well, when you guys have a character, the kind of things you have to compensate for. For instance, he has a big backpack. Now the backpack can be considered kind of squishy. I could pass into it a little bit, but I don't want to ignore the fact that it's there entirely. However, what if my character can actually lose the backpack? Or like it's not part of his regular equipment, it's something that gets skinned onto him later, like you find a backpack. So in that case, to be honest, I have to either choose one, or I have to make an animation for both cases where he does this dive dodge with backpack and without. So if it were to interfere. So in this case, I'm actually, now that I think about it, I'm going to back it off. I'm going to consider the backpack just a hair, but I'm going to do my best to try to not have him rely on this area of his body for as long as I possibly can. I'll try to hide it, right? So that's the best thing I can do. So I have been requested to do a dodge roll. Now I could have him dive forward and roll and come up into his idle, but considering that it's a dodge, I'm going to assume that we want to do this to the side. You can do it in all directions, however, in any direction. However, in terms of getting it to, do that, like, say, mirror back and forth, I don't know how to do that yet. I think you can mirror animations with a cat rig. I think, but that's all I got on that. Now, I do have a weapon in my scene here, but I haven't given it to him yet, and I haven't given him any kind of weapon control bone or anything like that. I'm going to ignore the weapon for now, because I actually do want my character to, have movement for not being armed as well. Now, this is just a basic cat motion rig. I loaded the game walk preset on it and just let it play. I'm not happy with it. I wouldn't really use it as is. I don't like what the shoulders are doing. It feels his weight is okay, to be honest. He doesn't feel like he's too light or anything like that, but it's a little dull. You can see I haven't even made the tail for him yet. But anyways, so what I want to do is, first off, I need to get myself an idle pose, basically. You do want to build everything off of an idle pose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come from as close to the walk as I possibly can. So there's not much of a difference in transition between him standing there and between him walking. Because in reality, when you stand and when you walk, you don't like all of a sudden, like, freaking spaz out and your arm goes doing or something weird. And as you can see here, skin weighting issues abound, right? I don't care about that. So we want to base it based off of this general position right here. So what I'll do is just be on frame 0. Seems like a good enough pose. Pretty much any one of these. Maybe this one's a better pose because the feet are more together, but it really doesn't matter too much around this area where I pick. So I'll just go with frame 0, and I'll add an absolute layer, and I'll name it immediately because it's a good idea to do that. We'll just call this idle. And now that I have that, you can see it's taken over the track. Okay, I could solo it if I wanted to. It isn't going to make any difference. And now I'm just going to pose him. I'm not going to go into auto key mode because I don't need to. And all I'm going to do is put him back into position. Okay, let's go ahead and freeze him. That way I can't pick him. Settle him back to about here. Make sure he's over the middle here. Okay, we can go by view here. We could tell if we're not perfect. We can center him over the middle. which means now we got to fix these guys here just a little bit. You can see we got some rays here, so we're going to lower that down. You can see this one here's got a little bit of a funkiness to it, so let's go to view here. Let's make that 90. There we go. Okay. So this is okay. I think he's a little twisted to the side, so let's center him up a little bit. So we'll make that -90, we'll make that 0, and we'll make this -90. Okay, that's dead center, and let's kind of, you know, unmechanicalize that, right? We don't want that to be too much. And we'll have his head be, you know, looking fairly straight. So a pose in, you know, in this regard isn't too bad. I kind of want him to stand up a little bit more straight, and I can move that back some. There we go. So he'll stand like that. The head I can move just a little bit. You can see the skin weights on, you know, transferring down here. Again, I don't want to care about it, so please don't yell that to me. This is just a character on the mesh. Okay, so I would be okay with that as my idle. We're done. Let's say I animated that. I don't care. Not going to do it. Now, dodge, roll. To his right. So he's going this way. There. Animation done. This is HipHop signing off. Thanks for watching. No. Alright, let's see. I'm trying to think. Here's the thing about the dodge roll. In reality, you'd kind of have to duck down pretty heavily and then zing over quite hard, and then, you know, do your dive. There's no real way to just go boing from this position without any kind of anticipation. It's impossible. So we can't do that. Like, we can't do it without any anticipation. However, in a game, players expect instant feedback. So if you hit the button and then your character spends too long doing something and then does what you want him to do, the players are going to be really irritated. Your game, it's going to feel sluggish, and controls are just not going to feel good. So we need to do the anticipation phase faster than normal, because this is a game. This is not necessarily a hard rule or anything like that, but I found that in general your anticipation phase really should be blending out real fast when it comes to these kinds of moves that the players are controlling. So what we're going to do is we'll just go ahead and we'll slap a key down here, and we're going to get him kind of started going that way. Okay, and we'll just use FK for now. There's no need for IK. We have it on the feet. Okay, pose to pose animation is what we're going to do here. I'm going to bring this a little bit forward. I don't want to overstretch him too much. I'm probably not going to do as cool of a pose and animation that I would normally shoot for, because A, I don't want to spend a million years on it, and B, actually, I actually forgot to mention this. The main reason I took this one instead of any other request is because this particular animation actually is going to present us with a very specific challenge. That very specific challenge is, in fact, the fact that we're going to do a roll. A flip, a roll, anything that's going to send us over one rotation is an issue when it comes to going back into this pose here. The reason is because these feet are at a rotation, well, they're not actually 0, 0, 0, but they're at this rotation here, when in reality, when they're done, what's going to end up happening is he's going to roll over from our view here counterclockwise, from our view here clockwise, okay, but this will be counterclockwise in our view here. He's going to go over this way, so our foot needs to go over, and it needs to go over a full 360 and return. Okay, so that's like the main challenge of the whole thing. Motherfucker. Okay, well, continuing forward, let's just keep going. in pose to pose. So I'm going to get him about right here now and send him over, like, I'd say about there. Now at this point is when I actually want to start taking these things, you know, a little bit up with them. Let's go ahead and hide this guy. Okay, those I screwed up. You can see I didn't lock keyframes down at the 10 marker, so I'll just copy 0 to 10 there, keep them planted. There we go. Okay, so here we go. He's going over. Alright, now he's going. Alright, we're just going to animate these 3 pieces for now. The hands are actually, if you notice, they just follow with. They go with the, with FK, they go with the pelvis, okay? But we'll leave that for now. And we'll just keep going. So now another 10 frames over, we'll go ahead and rotate them somewhere around there, and we'll bring them over to about here, and we'll take these guys and we'll rotate them somewhere around there, and then we'll bring them up here like there, and probably forward. Again, we're going for the very basics of the animation here. We're not really worried about anything else, really. We just want to make sure that he's going to do it, okay? So we go like that. And now, he's most likely going to keep on rotating. End up somewhere, I don't know, here. And we'll do the same thing here. Just rotate just a little bit, about 90. And then we'll just move them over here. You can see they're getting kind of dickered in their positions, so we can swap that real quick and then fix that rotation easy enough. So essentially, you know, every 10 frames forward, we're just going in and we're fixing the pose. Anything dramatically off, and only right now worrying about the feet and the pelvis. Everything else is stiff, statued. That's fine. We can add that in. That's secondary motion. What's important right now is these things happen. Okay? Alright, so now we're getting ready to land. This is when things are going to get a little tricky, but not too much. Bring him up. He's going to end up, you know, somewhere up there or something. I don't want to cover his feet, so I'm just going to grab those real quick now and move them down. And when I rotate them, they're only going to go on their own center, so we'll just kind of, like I said, just fix the pose. We're way up in the air, I think, too. So considering that this is something that we want to actually have happen on a ground plane, let's go ahead and give ourselves a ground plane. Now there's kind of 2 ways to do that. One, if you right click the snaps toggle and you go to the home grid, you can actually just increase the grid, which helps. Sorry about the sound in the background, my dog is itchy. So you can do that if you want, whatever. I mean, you can go for infinity. However, you can see through that. In this case, we want to make sure that nothing passes through too much, or we want to make sure we see very clearly what does pass through. So given that, let's go ahead and just create a plane. So we'll just make sure that we just encompass enough of the area that we don't really have to worry about it. Let's give it a nice neutral type of darkish color. Let's make sure we don't really need any segments for it. Let's zero it out, not that that matters. 0, 0. Okay, we'll hit G here. Okay, so now we don't have anything in the way, and we can see a ground, and if we freeze it, it'll turn white. I have a hotkey for that. Oop, now it doesn't do that anymore, but what my hotkey is essentially a toggle for show frozen in gray. I just threw that up on here. It's very handy in my opinion because it defaults to always on, so I want to keep that dark. Now I can't pick it anymore, and now I can see where I'm at, and it's very easy for me to tell, oh yeah, I'm way up here. So grab these guys and we'll, oops, make sure we grab the axis and we'll bring them down until the feet start to slip there into the ground, somewhere around there. Okay, and now you can clearly see that he's under the ground. Alright, it looks like we need to keep moving forward. Oops. So he's, oops. Oh, undo. I gotta undo. I wasn't even in auto key. Alert. Alert! I blew that. That was why he was going to end up under the ground the whole time. Let's make sure he's still standing here in the beginning. He is. Okay, so then he ends up like here. I still think he needs to keep traveling forward here. He's coming to an unnatural stop. That's a little hop there. He would, I mean, this would work if he launched himself off his hands. As you can see from here, it's not a perfect roll. His pelvis is actually sliding across the ground. It's not rolling, so we can pull it back some. This is actually just how I like to work. I just kind of go, okay, well, something like this. I feel like he's a little bit like that, and then let's say at 60, whatever this rotation would be, to get him back to normal. We'll put all the rest of the bones back to normal too. These guys need to be back to normal. However, we need to determine one very important thing, and that is how far did we actually travel here? In the Y, it looks like we went about -152, which is pretty good considering that we start at 0. So that's a very definitive number, and definitive enough for me to go ahead and say, you know what? Let's make that exactly 150. That's how far he went. Now we're going to check where he ended up. So I'm just going to look at these values. -1.5, that didn't change, as you can see. 38.127, 44 point. Let's copy that value and let's throw that in there. Okay, because here's the thing, we need to get him back into idle, but we need that idle to be moved over to here. So every single thing that gets moved here should be exactly the same as what it was, just moved over 150 in the Y. So what we can actually do is just copy this keyframe, boom, we're just going to shit it all the way back over there, and now all I got to do is just add 150, and I'm exactly where I was supposed to be. Okay, the rest of the values, however, you know, they need adjusting too, so let's make sure that stays the same. That did -1.5828. Okay, let's check rotation. We can't be on local because it won't show us. If we're on local, it's just going to be zeros. So it's -100, -90, and then 0. So let's match that, -100, -90, and 0. Okay. I was a little concerned because the foot platform is actually slightly below the ground in the very beginning. However, that's okay, to be honest. It is okay. But if that does bother me, I could move that up either in auto key, because remember it's got to stay here for these first couple of frames, right? So I can just move it up here if I want, just to make sure that the platform is visible at all times. And in fact, I can just say 0, right? So we come from a 0 start, and we'll do the same thing here. Alright, and then we'll just make sure that it's back to 0 when we get over to here, which it is. Okay, so again, we're trying to match. Remember, we're trying to make sure everything stays the same. So we come, we check the values. We only add a 1 and a 5 right here, which is 150. You know, remember, we're subtracting another 150 there from where he moved. Okay, so now we'll do the same thing here. We'll take this guy, we'll just hold shift and we'll drag it there, and then we'll just add, well, actually we need to subtract here, and you might think, oh, okay, so it's just, you know, 144. No, it's just do a calculator, it's safer. Okay, so we're going to say 150 minus 6.167, and that's going to give us 24.3. What did I hit? Did I hit mine? I think I hit divide. Hang on. 150 minus 6.167 is, okay. And just as a little note, right click, copy, and we're going to keep, oops, it's here. Just double click and then we can paste. And then we hit enter, and we'll throw a minus in there. There we go. Now he's back to where he was. Now let's just check the Z. 0.21, that's correct, and 0.207, that doesn't change. Okay, now notice here's where the issue comes up. Now the rest of the stuff right here, control page down, to be honest, we can actually just dupe that over. Now I might have messed up something here. Yes, I did. Which one did I mess up? This one? No, this one. Okay. You are going... Okay, I added 150 to this thing with auto key off. Okay, so I just undid that. Put that back. Now it should be back with the animation, except for here. Now I need to do the 150. I should have copied that frickin' value. Okay, so I need negative this. So negative control V. There we go. Sorry, that was confusing. Now you will see that it does land in a good position, and he is, in fact, well, no, there's a little bit squirrely going on. Let's make sure that this guy's rotation is the same, which it's not, so we'll just copy it. You don't always have to copy. Now remember, I could do the, I guess I should, probably. But really, this is just as easy. The other way to do that would be to shift drag some of the rotation keys here. Like if I wanted to say take this key, these keys, and change it so that they're like that, if I hold shift and drag it over, when I let it go on the same one, it'll actually get rid of them. See, it replaces them. Maya doesn't do that. Maya will actually keep both of them there. You can actually have like a humongous stack of keyframes, and whichever one's on the top is the one that it actually uses. It's kind of weird. Okay, so now let's go back to the problem of doing a flip, and the reason that I addressed this particular type of animation. Because what's happened is the feet are now flipping over all kinds of crazy. They come over and they land okay for us, but how am I ever going to get this to work? There's something schizo going on here. So what we're going to do is we'll see, sometimes it really is a right rotten pain in the ass, you can't fix it. And in that case, what I do is a bit of a cheat. So what we're going to do is go to the curve editor, the curve editor. It's coming to save us. I only need to see the feet, so I'll go ahead and cover what's going on here. And we'll take a look at the rotations. So at around here, I'm at like negative 80. So this one kind of goes back and forth and then ends up back at 0. That one's kind of weird. Let's take a look at this one. This one here, ooh, this one's going up to like 257 and then shoots back to 0. That's not right. That should in fact be shooting up to 360. Well, actually 360 plus 90. Well, 360 minus 90. So 270. Okay, and as you can see, it's not flipped over. It's still in the exact right spot. Now if I move this down, you can see that now I'm flipping it over. But what I've done is I flipped it over 360. Notice what happens at the end of the animation on that foot alone. Nothing. It shifts position, sure enough, but that's it, right? So let's see if we can't fix this one. Again, we look for the one that's going like all of a sudden it's just on this track. It went from negative 80 all the way to negative 445. So we need to go from negative 86 to negative 360. So we need to add the root values here. Okay, so we're going to say 86.209 plus 360. That's going to give us 446.209 negative. Notice, back in the position, notice that's actually about where we did it anyway when I hand rotated it. we might as well paste it here as well. Oh, whoa, hey, nope. We can shift and move it. That works too. Okay. If you also hold control, once you like start a direction, like say if I start moving left and right, if I'm holding control, I restrict that axis. So now I'm only adjusting time. I cannot offset the value, which is super handy. And if I let go of control, I can offset them both, value and that. But if I hold control, like I said, I can no longer do that. Now if I go, let me undo that. I can also only do value by going up and down. Now if I go left and right, I'm only going to mess with the value, and I'm not going to accidentally shift this thing to frame 41 while I'm trying to move this thing up, because I keep and what if this wasn't just 120? What if this was 1200? It was super fine, and you really were having an issue trying to keep your hands so perfectly straight. Now hold control and just like I said, start the direction first. So if you only want to adjust value, up and down. If you only want to adjust timing, left and right. Just hold control the entire time. Okay. Handy little tip from Heatballs. Okay, so now what I want to do here is I want to actually go with just the positions, and whatever the positions are here is what I want to copy to here. So that should be a fairly straight line. Why can't I zoom in anymore? That's weird. That's not perfectly straight, so I'll just go ahead and straighten it. That's perfectly acceptable these days. Alright. Okay, notice that that foot now doesn't have that last second slide. It stops where it was. The other foot still does, so we need to fix that one. So grab that, we'll only activate the position tracks. And again, we're just going to select these. I'm going to hold Control and Shift, and I'm going to start dragging to the right, which will not adjust values, only timing. When I let go, it'll replace everything that's there. And now, aside from rotation, I don't have any problems. There's no movement. So do I want to match rotation from the start to the end? We might as well. We got a track missing. There it is. So we don't want to do this one. Okay, this is actually the wrong rotation. The correct rotation is actually when he's finished. So we'll take what's finished, we'll hold Control and Shift, and we'll move it back here, and then let go. And there we go. So now he lands in that position. Bam. And he just stands right up. Okay. Now, to be honest, the rest of the animation could and should be up to you. I'll try to my best here just to do something, you know, a little bit creative to make sure I kind of keep things in order. You know, I don't want this animation to look dumpy. And right now he looks very floaty, doesn't hit the ground, his head goes through the ground. Lots of not been done yet going on here. However, the fundamental of the whole thing is clean, and we should be able to check this in this view here by going to the start. Okay, you can see we have a problem from start to end. Okay, we need to fix this. It's just the feet, it's just the positions of the feet, that's all. Okay, so let's fix that. They are a little in the wrong position. So what we can do is we'll go back to the curve editor. Actually, we'll do that here instead of in the graph, because the graph actually is a little bit more confusing in this regard. The fact is that this platform here isn't actually perfectly at X rotation. It's not 0. And the curve editor does everything in local, which would be Z sideways and things like this. You can see, which is fairly odd. It doesn't matter, it doesn't affect the bones or anything. This is just how this thing is. So this thing is actually shot over in its Z, right? But we don't use local here. What we're going to do is we're going to repair this in world space just using the simple copy and paste of the coordinates. So we'll just grab the X, we'll come here and we'll paste that, and we'll hit tab, and then we'll come here and we'll paste it. Okay, there we go. And we'll just do the same thing to this guy, and I believe that the should be 0 here. So let's 0 that, and then 0 that. Okay, and then we'll come here and we'll do the same thing. So that is 0. That is 0. That's okay. But we're missing, so it's 0.207, and then we ended up at 5. Okay, so there we go. Now, if we look at the front view, between the first, or the last frame here, which is 60, and the first, we still have some issues. Our pelvis is not in the exact same spot. Our feet look okay. Do they? Our rotation of this guy, which never changes, interesting. Let's see. Let's go to rotation. See if we see any difference. 286, 209. Not really. What is different? You can see it from this view quite clearly. He's supposed to end up in the exact same pose, which means that when I do this, oh, I see. The Z position. The Z position. It's not 0 to start. Let's just 0 it. This first 2 frames. And then 0 that. Now let's check this guy. 1.539. 1.539. Then just negative 150. Rotation. Remember, it's got to go over and end up 360 from what it was. So let's just check the different axes. Y doesn't change. Changes a hair. 199 to 198. I don't even know if it's going to let me enter that in. No, it won't. Okay, it's just a precision thing. Okay, and then negative. Okay, 9.905. Whoa. That did not end up at 9.905. What? I think this one needs to go over 362, so let's do a little bit of mathematics. We got to go into the curve editor here. I got to make sure that this guy's right. But actually, let's make sure. Hang on, is it even wrong? Kinda. Wait, hang on. This foot platform still feels like it's changing height. These have no animation. I only animated the feet and the pelvis, right? So pelvis is 44.202, 44.202. Now in the X is 1.539, 1.539. Rotation is crazy. So let's actually even it out. Let's go negative 90, negative 90. What the shit did it do? Is that gonna flip it over? No. Okay, that's okay. Okay, weird. So it's kind of like untranslating itself in a way. I don't know. I don't know, guys. I'm sorry about this, but I have no idea what those values are doing. But what I want to do is try to figure. So that's negative 60 from negative 80. Okay, what happens if I always think I got it. Okay, there's a thingy here you gotta hit. I keep trying to hit the zoom key in the little window like a dum-dum. Okay, so essentially what we want to do is we want to take these. Now we know that, what is that? Negative 239 from what? Just click on one of them. One of them. From negative 90. Negative 239. I don't think that's correct. See, I think what's happened is I've crisscrossed. I've gimbal locked. Because that's essentially negative 240. Let's just show the X rotation real quick. So it'll go from negative 90 to negative 240. So we only went 150 degrees in that axis. And I think what we did was we made up for it by going 150 in another axis, and then 150 in the other axis. So we didn't end up with just one axis. Like, it looks the same, but it's in reality what we've done is, let me try to explain this because it's super confusing and it really can screw things up. Let's just do a box example real quick. The box example, when you rotate by view in a whole bunch of different random ways until you get it completely just dickered all over the place. Well, what can happen is locally you can say, hey, you know, I can move this up, but then I can kind of move this back to get it sort of in that same, and then I can kind of like, okay, do this kind of like again, and kind of just keep fiddling it around, and essentially I'll keep it rotating around, but I'm doing minor adjustments to each axis, and eventually what happens is I end up with this, like now all of a sudden I'm totally screwed and dickered. I have two axes doing the same thing. I've gimbal locked it. And it's hard to explain how gimbal lock happens, but it's something akin to like stuff like this, where it's like, oh, now it wants to go, I want to get that down, I want to get it flat, so let me try to get it flat, let me try to get it down, let me try to get it up. Oh, now it's got to go over here, and then rotate over to here, so let me get it up, and then down, and then what can happen is, once you go into something like a different axis system, things start getting superiorly screwed up, and you don't know what the hell anything's doing anymore. So that is kind of happening to my pelvis. So that's why my curve doesn't really make sense when you look at it. It's like, how come that's not 360? It's because it's kind of like taking them together. So what I want to do is a test. Before I do that, let me save. I'll just save. It's fine. This is just testing. I can dump this layer or this animation track if I want to at any moment if I don't like it. Make sure I'm in auto key at some point here. So it's spooling up. I'm saving it on an external drive. It hasn't been saved to in a little while, so it just spools up. That's why this takes a while. Okay, there we go. Alright, so what I'm going to attempt here, just for shizzles, is I'm going to get rid of all those keyframes for rotation. So you'll see very odd behavior, right? Okay, now let's take the Y rotation, and we'll go to the end of the animation here. Let's just go ahead and give him a keyframe everywhere. And I'll take that and okay, wrong axis. Oops. So I'm going to delete that. Let's get this red one. We'll try moving this one, see if that's the right axis. Wrong axis. Okay, so we're looking for Z rotation. And we want to go... Actually, notice Z rotation's wrong, too. Y rotation. Let's add a key right there. Brings him forward and backwards. Right? Z turned him left and right, like in a no kind of a thing. Right, left and right. And X also turns him left and right. See that? The local axis there also turns him left and right. So in order to get him to roll, it's very difficult, to be honest, because what you have to do is this dumb shit like this, where you have to do something like that. And then turn this, hang on, let me see if I can try to get it back. Turn this over, then turn it like that. And now he's rolling, but you've just dicked every axis to get it like that. So we're not going to do any of that shit. So as you can see, I've completely, let's see, let's just kill entirely all form of rotational animation whatsoever, just like I've done originally. Okay, there we go. Alright, now what we want to do is we want to control the rotation of this thing with a completely different object. Because you would think, oh, all you got to do is come here. This might actually work. Hang on, let's just give this one last test. Remember, I killed all rotational frames. So I'm just going to go ahead and set a key here. I'm not setting any rotations here. You notice that they're not RGB, they're just R. Okay, and I'm going to hit A, and I'm going to flip him over 360. And so you notice partially through it, he doesn't just go over perfectly. He does kind of a twist right here. Look, that's not like this, like it should be. For some reason, he's tilted that way, which is just a natural, you know, occurrence of the curves compensating for the fact that I'm rotating it in view and not in local. So let's undo that. And let's instead go by local. All the way over to 360. Now notice it's doing something even worse. See, it's trying to compensate for it. So, I mean, unless you like this, which I don't, I think it's fucking stupid, excuse my French, but it sucks, and it's irritating. So what we do instead, we just use simple tricks. Once again, let's just see. I only rotated the one axis. You know what I'm saying? So let's do this. What axis am I actually rotating here? If I go by local, I'm doing the Y. Okay, you can see at my bottom of my screen that I'm changing the Y axis down here. Okay, let me undo that. If I look on this line right here, when I grab it, it's the Y-axis there? Okay. So let's take the X and the Z and let's ditch what they got. And now we're only doing that axis. And notice he's not going over anymore. He's going forwards. You see what I'm saying? So that's the problem. So we can't do any rotation from here. We're going to do it differently. We're going to link him to something else is what we're going to do. And that should work. So let's give it a shot. And we're going to say... trying to think, because we do it here in the controllers. We're on dodge roll, so we'll go to transform, we'll go to dodge roll. Okay, and you can see here, so rotation, I'm wondering if I have a orientation constraint could do it. So that, oh, there was a coin stuck to my arm because it's hot and muggy in Florida. Alright, so let's give ourselves a control object. Can be anywhere in the scene, to be honest. Let's go off of auto key here real quick and let's just give ourselves a little bit of a box. And we'll come up and we'll say boop, like that. And we'll just, you know, stick it right in front of him. And we'll call this hip rotation control. Yeah, you know, something super simple and not too confusing. And we'll go ahead and lock a key, and we'll lock a key anyway here. And so now what we'll do is we'll grab this guy and we'll come back up into the motion tab. We'll go ahead and grab rotation. We'll say assign controller orientation constraint. Hit OK. Alright. We'll add the target of this guy. Boom. Now it's going to flipper F him, and we're going to say keep initial offset, and that won't do that anymore. Alright. Now that's done pretty much, because you can see here the weight. I don't know what 50 has to do with anything, but it seems to me like it's just kind of like a weight of 1 in a sense, you know. But yeah, that's a little confusing. So now you'll see that nothing's happening. Okay, he's still not animating, but now if I come off, oh, wait, did it change? Did it change? Hip rotation control. Yeah, no, I didn't. Okay, I gotta remember to turn that off. Now I can't pick anything else. Okay, so now come here, auto key, and we're gonna rotate this guy over 360 in his own little way. And as you can see, ta-da, and now he's perfect. Okay, it goes in the right axis, and let's see. Okay, we got a little bit of adjustment in, I think, the rotation. It feels like the rotation of the hip. No, it's the exact same. Foot plant position? Something's moving. The thing is it could be confusing. Here, let's do this. Let's hide the mesh, because the deformation of the mesh can actually be confusing our eyes. Okay, that moved. As did that. The pelvis, however, is not moving. It's not moving at all. It's not rotating, it's not moving. There's something in the legs. Is it anything to do with the feet? It's the rotation of this guy. It doesn't have any keyframes. How is that possible? Is it the position? It's very strange. None of these have any keyframes. So I don't really quite, frankly, I don't know. It's very subtle. He's pretty much in idle, but it's not exact, and I don't know why. I'll be honest, it's not exact. The feet platforms are. By the way, there's another way to test this. It might be kind of annoying considering that we're doing a flip, and it'll look weird, but we can add a camera to the scene. So all you do is, I'll just take this guy and hide it, because you know, it's doing its thing. So what I'll do is I'll come here and I'll say Control C, and now I'm in a camera. Okay, now I'll hit P to go back to perspective, and if you look, you can see here's my camera. So all I got to do is just take my link tool and just drag that here. And now if I hit C, and when I hit play, okay, hang on, this camera type, the camera type needs to be not targeted. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, now I can tell quite clearly, because my camera's locked to the hip, what's wrong. The feet are too far to the X. They moved out too far. That's exactly the problem. My math is dickered. So here we're at 157.423. Here we're at -5. And we need to go even further, right? So I think I changed these and I just messed it up, that's all. So we'll take this here and we'll start here. So we're at -5.573, okay, and we're gonna say minus, shit, let me start over because I had some values in there. By the way, for some dumbass reason, this stupid Windows calculator, I can't say -5. It does say 0 minus 5. I gotta hit enter first to do that if you want to actually see it, so it's kind of annoying. Okay, but anyways, -5.573. Okay, that minus 150, that's our value. So we'll copy that. That's where we need to be up here. However, we got to be careful. So we got to make sure that we're keying this, and we're going to stick that in there. Boom. And remember, we got to land a little early of that, so we'll do that there. Let's check. Perfect. Okay, we'll come here, we'll do the same thing. So let's go ahead and get this value, 6.617, and that is going to end up in the negatives. Okay, so we're going to take this value, subtract 150 from it. Let's see this out. Okay, so 6.617 minus 150. We'll go ahead and copy that, and then we'll just come here on frame 50. Remember, auto key's on, and we'll replace the whole line. Then we'll come here and we'll replace the whole line. Okay, and then we'll go back. Ta-da! Now we're exactly in 100%. So I screwed that up, but if you look, what's actually happening is we're doing this big old transition to it, right? But we do end up in exact same pose, and that's the important thing, right? That is the important thing. So you might see some issues with your animation here, and you can fix it from here. However, you might find that from here it might be a little confusing from the camera because this is very one perspective. If you want, you can actually change this to screen, and then it'll align it to the camera. So you can make your adjustment here. So if you think like, oh, like right here, let's actually go into wireframe. Okay, like right here, you know, he's not good here, like it's crossing over, you know. So maybe I'll take these and I'll say, okay, I'll just move one a little bit over from the other, and maybe I'll unfold them a little early in this case, like so. Okay, before he lands. Alright, and then if we just go back to perspective, you can see that he's actually, you know, he's doing the whole thing across the thing, but the camera's following with it. So that's one way to test a motion movement for looping problems. Stick a camera to something on it and look through the camera and check the first and last frames from there. You saw how quickly and obvious everything became to me that, oh, I got him in that direction, I'm off. Okay, so that really does help. So now, like I said, if I really want to, I can kind of clean this up just a little bit. So he comes down. Let's turn this to local. Let's get my rat in there now, because I want to make sure that I can see what the character's doing. You would do the same, because now I think I might want to kind of do something like this. Okay, here I'm going to be a little bit more like that, I think. I don't want to tuck him too much. He's not a contortionist. Okay, I've gone through it and I've done the rest of the cleanup of the animation already. Now, I did actually have that part recorded and it got glitchered and I lost it. So that's a little unfortunate, but I'm going to try to step through it here real quick. What's important, fundamentally, is the return to the exact same pose on the last and start frames. Okay, I have my leg a little bit dickered here, but I can fix that easy enough. You can see I didn't even really move it or anything like that. So let's just look at the animation real quick as it's going to play right now. I'll just play it. Okay, you can see that's in slow-mo. Okay, at full speed. Okay, feels pretty good for a dodge. And in terms of the movement, it's fairly clean. It's fairly instantaneous that he actually starts dodging away. Okay, he doesn't spend too much time in position. So I think in terms of a balance between how much anticipation he's, you know, is realistic and how quickly he gets the hell out of the way, in my opinion, I think is struck here. Now I do have something going on. I'm actually controlling the times here, I've actually made these two layers, dodge roll right and the dodge roll pelvis twist, which I'll explain in a second. I've shortened them to run to frame 40 only. Okay, he's up at frame 40. These are dead frames here because I still have it here. I can take these and put them back, but the truth is that original speed, to be honest, I have to make sure that they both go, by the way. They do work in tandem. Original speed just feels a little slow to me. Also, which is, you see that it's acting very funny. The reason is because if I change the timing there, I have to change the timing here. So I just need to move this frame to 60, and he's fixed. But this feels a little slow. This is normal speed at the speed that I animated it at. It just feels slow. So I'm going to move that back, and then I'll go ahead and just move these back to 40. Like so. So I speed up the track. And it just feels better in my opinion. So if you need to speed a track up, there's a way to do it. You can do it this way. However, this is just like a global linear scaling, and it does in fact actually pull your keyframes. So it is still safe to work in this regard. Just keep in mind that you may or may not forget that you're speeding it up. So let me show the dodge roll pelvis twist here. If I actually ignore this layer, when he goes to turn, his legs are going to be broken, but you can see that his body stays how it was originally when we did it. He's doing a side roll, right? Okay, so he's doing a side roll. Ignore the feet, but just look at the pelvis and the body. See how he's doing it? It's doing it to the side. Now if I unignore that, he's twisted forward. So all I did on this layer is take him, and right here when he was down, I just twisted him because he was normally like this originally to face this angle here. So like I said, I just twisted him this way, and then I kept that so that he dives over in more of a roll, okay? And then I started to undo the twist slowly after he goes over the apex. That's all I've done here. That's what's different. That's the main thing that you guys are seeing that's different. Everything else is essentially the same. All I've done with the hands is basically just kept them out of the way. They don't actually have a lot of animation on them, okay? Well, on the dodge roll, you'll see here's the keyframes, but they're not doing much, okay? For the most part, I'm just keeping them out of the way, okay? Then he comes up onto his feet. Now I did screw the position of the foot, but I'm not going to worry about that. Well, we did solve that. We do know that they need to be the same. It just needs to be 150 units over, because remember, he's dodging 150. So let's summarize real quick and take away a few of the things that we've learned on the dodge roll. Because number one, it's important that the fundamentals of what's happening here is actually taken care of. You need to make sure that he does do what you want him to do. So he's dodging out of the way. So does he do that? I think so. Okay, he rolls right out of the way, and he goes a significant distance. It's 150 units away. It's not like he ends up like right here and he's right next to something. I think, in my opinion, it could go further. I wouldn't go much less than this. Okay, just him rolling over kind of negates that. I do need to fix his head a little bit here. As you can see right here, let's just lock a keyframe there, and then right here that should just be tucked. There we go. Alright, ta-da, and then he comes up. Okay, so let's take a look at the frames real quick. So I did a 60 frame animation, however I truncated it down to 40, right? Let's undo that real quick so that I can make sure that when I step through, we're still in kind of that same sequence. So I'm just going to go real quick here, and I'm actually going to go ahead and move that out of the way and undo the change in timing here, and then just move that keyframe. So this is the original how it was animated. and this will be easier for me to step through. Okay. However, I did feel the need to speed it up. Okay, so looking at the dodge roll right, ignoring the dodge twist, because again, it only affects this, and it only turns him to face his roll, and then unturns him. That's all that does. Okay, this now is the meat of the, all of the animation is here. Okay, so we go to about 10 or so, and we kind of, this is our anticipation. Okay, this is a third of a second, it's quick, it's not that much. He's coming down, and he's also turning in. Okay, at 20 he's now going basically over. However, if you look at the pelvis, it is now 45 degrees. So I mean, sorry, 90 degrees to the left. Okay, if we look at this guy, okay, that's at 90. Remember, it starts at 0, and at frame 20 hits 90. Okay, then at frame 30 goes another 90, because it starts slow in the beginning because he's still diving here, then speeds up, goes around. Okay, at frame 40 or so. Okay, remember, most everything else is on the 10 frames and things like that. Things got a little shifted around, but around here, doesn't matter exactly. He's just starting to come out of it. His pelvis is still here. Okay, it was upside down halfway through, right? Here's 0, it's right side up. It's back to right side up. Halfway through, it's almost exactly upside down. So if you really want to know, hey, where do I start? Coming here is a good position. Just go halfway and say, okay, he's moved halfway over and he's completely upside down. And as he comes out, he should be twice as far, and now he should be back to right side up. You can take it that simply, but in our case, you know, as we go forward now, and about 10 frames later or so, we get about another 90 degrees, and then about 10 frames later or so, we're actually about 90. We're actually about done rotating, and then we kind of do the stand-up. So we have a slight bit of a delay in the rotation getting to 90 degrees. Then we go 90, 90, and then we have a bit of a delay coming out back to the full 360. Okay, guys. So I think that's about it for the video. If you guys have any questions, let me know. If you have any problems. I do know that it gets a little tricky when you're going in a, like I said, in a 360 roll. Rotations can get a little funny, so just do your best there. Check your curves. Sometimes it is better just to delete some keyframes that are being jerkwads and recreate them, because it can undo some weird tangents and things in your curve editor. That's like all the advice I got in that case, really. But it can be kind of difficult, I suppose. So anyways, this is Hip-Hop signing off, rolling off the scene. Look at this exit. That's some classy exiting, guys. I'm gonna do that the next time I like you know, like go to like a job interview, and I'm like, okay guys, thanks for having me. I'll look forward to your call, and just keep me in mind if you go, you know, if you do choose somebody else, maybe keep me in mind for the future, keep me on file. That would be great. All right guys, thank you. You guys have a good day. I'm gonna leave now. Bye. Out.